This is a Channel 15 sports presentation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the fun is about to begin. So my job here is to welcome you all and then to introduce our Master of Ceremonies. There's a lot of paperwork up here. My remarks aren't on it, so I'll be very brief. But I want to say thank you, first of all. Thank you for coming out tonight. This is a really, really exciting event because it is the first ever Hall of Fame here in West Springfield. Now, throughout the week, folks have been asking me what my plans are for the weekend, if I'm doing anything Friday night. Yeah, I have to actually, I have to speak at the induction for the Hall of Fame. You're like, wow, how did you get down? All right. Well, it's the West Springfield Hall of Fame. I'm the mayor. Why wouldn't I? Oh, not the induction in Springfield. I'm like, oh, no, not the Basketball Hall of Fame. And I try to tell the news today, this is much, much more important because it's the inaugural induction of the West Springfield Hall of Fame. As I said, never had it before. And I know, just from looking over these notes real quick, that Chairman Brian Griffin, also Councilor Brian Griffin, will tell the story much better than I of how this started. But really, it was 2 years ago, the 2016 baseball team won the state championship in my first year in office. And Brian Griffin says to me, hey, we don't have a Hall of Fame. I'm thinking, oh, should we have a Hall of Fame? I don't know, should we? He goes, yeah, I think we should. Okay, well, let's do it. And the following day, he goes, so you want to do this thing? I'm like, yeah, you can be the chairman, put a committee together, and away we go. And now here we are a year and a half later, and it's happened. So I want to say thank you to Brian Griffin, our chairman. But also thank you to all the members of the committee that worked very hard over the past year and a half to make this possible. So I'll say the only complaint I had over the past year and a half was that everyone would come up to me and go, Will, who selected the people for the Hall of Fame? Hey, you gotta talk to the committee. Well, so-and-so should be in it, this person should be in it, this person, why didn't you consider them? That's why we have the committee, let the committee know. But it really shows the amount of incredible athletes and teams we have here in West Springfield. And I know with the new high school, we just unveiled the state banners last year, but it doesn't really show from the folks that went to the old high school, all the other banners we had for all the teams, whether they won Western Mass or the 1,000-point scores, league champs, not just the state champs. And even as we saw last year with the football team that ended, while they didn't win the state championship, they ended as the runner-up at Gillette. So that's really impressive in itself. So. With that, I want to congratulate this inaugural class to the West Springfield Hall of Fame, but also thank, and we have a lot more to look forward to from all the other incredible athletes we have over the last 144 years of this program. So with that, a huge round of applause, because again, like I said, it wouldn't be possible without this man right here, our Master of Ceremonies, Counselor and Chairman, Brian Griffin.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your unwavering support. And he's a little humble when he talks about this. He's an individual who, when we first brought this up, he received it with open arms. He had a lot of delegation involved, which is a true quality of a leader, and said, "Hey, Griff, you got to get this thing rolling." Without his unwavering support, we're not here tonight, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. And you think about it, 144 years of West Springfield athletics. It's crazy that we never had a Hall of Fame. And then all of a sudden, you have, like the 52 team and the Demerskis, the Grazias, and the Bazones, and the Hildress. There's so many individuals who you could recognize. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows, all jokes aside, we do have a member of the 1952 hockey team here tonight. His name is Joe Nevers, and he's sitting right there in the back. So the mayor told the story of how we arrived at it, but it was kind of funny. You know, 2016 baseball wins the state championship. We're sitting in the Dante Club afterwards, having a couple of nectars of the gods, and I got my hat on backwards, and he's looking at me. We had a couple, and buddy, we don't have a Hall of Fame. He goes, no, we don't have a Hall of Fame. I said, I think we should have a Hall of Fame. He goes, I think we should have a Hall of Fame too. So that's really what happened. That's the real story. He gave you the cleaned up version. Then Monday we started, and you know, in 144-year history of West Springfield High School athletics, we've had some of the greatest athletes, coaches, teams, special contributors in all of Western Massachusetts and, quite frankly, the world. We wanted a way to recognize the best of the best in our history. And what better way to do it than create a Hall of Fame? I just want to introduce the committee members who played an integral role to being here this evening. And we have Vice Chairman Chris Thompson. Former Mayor Ed Sullivan, who is not here tonight. And the reason why he is not here tonight is his wife's birthday. And he has chosen his wife over the Hall of Fame, and that's the way it's supposed to be. That's why he's where he is and I'm where I am. Coach Deke Pillsbury. We have our mother hen, Julie Karras. She's probably out in front. One of our favorite coaches, Coach Brenda Marty. Bobby Collins. Mary Ruth Kane, who is not here this evening. And Athletic Director Glenn Dulett, who was tremendous in this effort. I want to spend some time and thank the superintendent, Mr. Richard, who has been outstanding to address each and every desire that we've wanted to address. And in some instances, it was within minutes. So thank you, Superintendent Richard. So I don't want to belabor things, but what we had to do at the beginning is create a mission statement, create the bylaws, create the nomination process, the selection process, and then you go on to the event planning. So it was a pretty large undertaking to achieve, and we sat in the room and we were able to do that together, and I can't thank them enough. But our mission is to recognize and honor West Side student athletes, coaches, teams for their achievements and contributions to the community and the school's athletic program. And they collectively agreed that this is a West Springfield High School Hall of Fame. So the Cathedral athletes, I was one, Mr. Angelo Bertellis and the Chris Capuanos, God bless them, and I think they're tremendous athletes, but this committee felt very, very strongly that this should be a West Springfield High School Hall of Fame. And I agree. So thank you. So special thanks to Donald at the Storton Tavern, his first-class staff for their hospitality this evening. It's fitting to host the inaugural ceremony at the home of the Eastern States Coliseum, the Old Barn, who created so many memories for several inductees this evening. Also, a huge thank you to our sponsors who graciously stepped up to support our first-class event. This evening would not be possible without the generous contributions of the Big E Trust, Teddy Bear Pools and Spas, Din Brothers, Collins Tavern, Powers Cafe, and none other than our own Coach Deke Pillsbury. So the inaugural class is as follows, and I'll just read it, and then we'll get into the presentations. Inaugural class of athletes are as follows: Amo Betts-Bazone, hockey head coach, 1966 NCAA championship. Tim Daggett, gymnastics, 1984 Olympic gold medalist and member of the USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame. Joseph Skip Demersky, hockey legend, Clarkson University Hall of Fame. Gene Grazia, hockey, 1960 Olympic gold medalist and member of the 1960 team inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Bruce Hildreth, basketball, baseball, who was signed with the San Francisco Giants. Leslie C. Plum, Porky Plum, football, basketball, baseball, and track. Coach Bill Jones from gymnastics. Coach George Thompson from soccer. The inaugural class also has the 1952 hockey team, and Mr. Nevers is here. And who can forget the 1974 New England soccer champions? Ed Shore, Sr., a member of the National Hockey League Hall of Fame, who spawned generations of rink rats. And George C. Steele, football, track, and a person of whom the George Steele Relays are named. So without further ado, I will have Mr. Doolette come up here with me because he'll accept on behalf of both Tim Daggett and Bill Jones. We decided collectively that we would induct Bill Jones and Tim Daggett together into the Hall of Fame. Tim is in Los Angeles this evening, and Mr. Jones unfortunately has passed away. So I think it's just a fitting tribute to have our athletic director, and we'll induct them both at the same time. And if my good friend Chris Thompson will come up with the plaques, I'd appreciate it. Perfect. Tim Daggett. Tim Daggett began gymnastics at the age of 10 through the town's park and recreational program. A prodigy, he was invited into local high school to train with the team. He's the all-time West Springfield High School leader in gymnastics points. Tim participated in Division I gymnastics at UCLA, graduating in 1986 with a degree in psychology. He scored a perfect 10 on the high bar, assisting his team in winning the Olympic gold medal, the first of the U.S. men's gymnastic team in Olympic history. In addition to the 1984 gold medal, he has earned an individual bronze on the pommel horse. Daggett was inducted into the USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame in 2005, following his retirement after the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul. Daggett has worked as a television commentator covering the gymnastics events for NBC and the Summer Olympics of Barcelona, Atlanta, Sydney, Athens, Beijing, London, and Rio. He is also the proprietor of the gymnastics facility in Agawam, Massachusetts, that features competitive and basic classes for young children, as well as open gym sessions to all. He coaches a competitive boys junior Olympic team program, which has attracted multiple national champions and national team members to his gym. The Tim Daggett National Invitational, held in Springfield's Mass Mutual Center, is an annual event in gymnastics competition in January, hosted by Daggett himself. And Tim has some remarks, and what I'm going to do is read those remarks and then read Mr. Jones' dedication as well. I want to thank everyone for this incredible honor of being inducted into the inaugural class of the West Springfield Hall of Fame. I sincerely wish I was able to attend in person, but scheduling problems made it impossible. I'm humbled to be recognized amongst so many distinguished individuals. I would like to add my personal congratulations to all the inductees and applaud their accomplishments and contributions. I may have lived in other places in my life, but West Springfield has always been my home and always will be. I'm a Terrier through and through and fiercely proud of it. I want to thank you. I want to thank my family for all the support throughout the years and sacrifices that they've made for me for chasing my dreams. I could never have done it without you. I also want to thank my coach and mentor and my friend, Bill Jones. Everything I've achieved in my life was made possible by this incredible man. I'm sure there are many in attendance this evening that feel the same way about Coach Jones. A better, more caring, giving person I have never met. The two of us worked as a team starting when I was 9 years old. He traveled the country with me in search of knowledge and learned to train alongside the best USA had to offer. Coach Jones gave me nights, weekends, holidays for our never-ending quest of greatness. I can't thank you enough, Coach Jones. At the 1984 Olympic Games, we were battling neck and neck with China, the current world champions of men's gymnastics. In our last event of the competition, we were on the high bar. I was 5th for the Team USA. 5 scores counted. Because of my years and work with this man, Coach Bill Jones, I went up and did the best routine of my life. Stuck my dismount and scored a perfect 10 to clinch the first ever gold medal in USA gymnastics history. Bill was in the arena along with my family that night, and I hope all know I would have been nothing without him. Again, thank you very much for this incredible honor. I wish you all a fantastic evening. Tim Daggett. So we'll induct Tim Daggett and Coach Jones together. Coach Jones grew up in Philadelphia after serving in the Navy, and he attended Springfield College, graduating in 1961. And soon after, he was hired as a physical education teacher at West Springfield High School. He coached gymnastics and track and served as an assistant coach in football. He became a head coach of boys gymnastics in 1966, coached the girls in 1975, and again in 1989 and 90. Coach Jones won the league title in 81 and 82, while winning the Western Mass 6 separate occasions, 73, 74, 76, 77, 78, 79, he was undefeated, 80, 81, undefeated, 81, 82, 84, 85. Jones won the Ultimate Crown, a state title in 1980-81, and in 1990, he won the Frank Comiskey Award, the highest service award in Junior Olympics. Bill was an amazing teacher, and he taught by example. He was a man of incredible character and integrity. His personality moved, and he possessed a draw that made people want to go to him. You could talk to him about anything. He retired in 1988 and moved to South Carolina, and as I said, he has passed away. So Coach Bill Jones and Tim Daggett will receive Glenn Demersky and Sam Darkwa. Let's get some pictures with these nice awards. Mayor? Julie's coming up. So just before, as Julie's coming up, I want to make sure I recognize Sam Darkwa. Graduated last year, but took it upon himself during some times that we were discussing this effort. And the story that is told is that he was comparing classes and who was the best athletes in what classes and how. Then he gets into these graphs and statistics and all these things from 1900s to 144-year history he's presented to us in an Excel spreadsheet with statistics, facts. Everything that I'm reading here tonight is his. So I just want to make sure you know. Yeah. Where's Julie? You got my good side? Yes, Mr. Collins, how are you today? Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. What a helper. Police officer extraordinaire. He's got to have something to do in retirement. Next up, Edward Shore. Edward Shore was one of the greatest hockey players that ever played the game. After he retired from the National Hockey League, he dedicated his life to advancing the sport of hockey. He owned and coached the Springfield Indians AHL franchise, organized amateur hockey leagues, and taught youngsters how to play the game. In 14 years as a skillful defenseman of the Boston Bruins, he established himself as one of the National Hockey League's all-time greats. He became known as Mr. Hockey because of his contributions to the game as a player, coach, manager, owner, benefactor, and teacher for 7 decades. He is remembered in Western Mass as a savior of hockey, when in 1939 he took a bankrupt Springfield franchise in the American Hockey League, whose home was at the time at the Eastern States Exposition Coliseum, and through his efforts, he turned the franchise into one of the greatest minor league franchises in the country. And the Coliseum into a place where area youngsters learn the sport. He led the Springfield Indians to an unprecedented 3 AHL Calder Cup championships in what was known as the Golden Age of Hockey, 1959 through 1962. Many of his players moved on to become NHL players, coaches, and general managers. The Greater Springfield Junior Amateur Hockey League, which Eddie Shore operated free of charge for boys from 10 to 16, was a dream come true for inspiring young players to superior training they achieved, led them to college hockey scholarships. Eddie also organized free skating sessions at the Coliseum for boys and girls, teaching them the techniques of proper skating. As a perennial all-star, the 4-time national most valuable player, he was inducted into the National Hockey League Hall of Fame in 1947. He was given the Lester Patrick Award in 1970 for his contributions to hockey in the United States. In 1996, he was inducted into the Springfield Hockey Hall of Fame during its first enshrinement. This is also a memorial to the youngsters who worked at the Eastern States Exposition Coliseum in exchange for ice time and instruction. They were effectively known as the Rink Rats. Eddie Shore's legacy to hockey lives and his spirit will always be present right here in the Eastern States and in the Coliseum. Here to accept, on behalf of Edward Shore, is Ed Shore's son, Ted Shore.
I have a question. How many people went to high school hockey games in the Coliseum? Keep your feet off the seats and on the floor, otherwise you'll be asked to leave. I thought that might get a little rouse out of some people. Now, if you never went to the games, you don't understand it. But anyway, I'm thrilled to be here to accept this on behalf of my father, and he stole all my speech, but that's okay. It's a great thing. I'd like to congratulate all the winners, all the recipients, and this is great, absolutely great thing. So stay out of the hot sun today.
So with that, we selected next on the program the 1952 hockey team, the state champions. And as you can see, and I want to thank my good friend Mark Domain, who has a set of jerseys he bought and purchased for the hockey team. He has put the 5 and 2 up on the side over here with the jerseys that he's had, and he gave us a couple other jerseys to put up on the other side. So a special thank you to Mark Boomer Domain. '52 hockey team, state champions. Here it is, 66 years later, and West Springfield High School hockey team of 1952 still stands alone in hockey in Western Massachusetts history. There has been no other state champion to come from Western Massachusetts. Now, Cathedral has gone to the Division I, but this title in 1952 was won at the highest level in Massachusetts, the 1A level. So it's the only one in Western Mass history. I think Pope Francis and Cathedral still tries to do it, but West Side has the crown, and it stays. Those terrific Terriers of long ago won the state hockey championship when the tournament had an open format, which could be compared to the Super 8 or Division I, as I said, format now in place. Back in the day with no division, the state field was loaded with all power teams from Eastern Massachusetts, as the Super 8 is today. To win the state title, the Terriers had to plow through 4 games against oppositions Wakefield, Newton, Walpole, Stoneham. Each of those teams came from hockey hotbed towns, but so did West Springfield. And in the end, Leo Fiorini's late goal made the difference in West Side's precious 4-3 state title victory in Stoneham and Old Boston Arena. Fiorini is one of the West Side's Iron Dukes, so named by Sam Pompey, a beloved hockey writer of the Springfield Daily News and Sunday Republican. Gene Grazia, Ebby Donaldson, Rudy Bazzalone, Richie Frasco, and Fiorini kept switching, taking turns on the front line and then playing defense. Fred Orlosk was the only true defenseman, and he played most of the minutes. They were a special crew, raised on Memorial Ave neighborhood across the street from right here in the Eastern States. As the rink rats, they scraped the ice between periods of Springfield Indian game and did odd jobs around the rink. Their reward, plenty of free ice time and plenty of the most valuable tutorial assistance from the greatest hockey player of all time, Ed Shore. 1952 Iron Dukes of Westside stand alone for the ages. On hand tonight, as I said, is Joe Nevers from the 1952 hockey team. And Mr. Collins would like to bring this award to Mr. Nevers and get a picture at his table. Mr. Mayor. So folks, I also want to introduce three of the West Side current hockey players right here at this table. They wanted to be here tonight to celebrate all the hockey tradition here in West Springfield, and as you can see, it's pretty fruitful. Next up, Amo Betts-Bazone. Best remembered as the head coach of the Cinderella Spartans in 1966 NCAA Hockey Championship. Amo spent 28 seasons coaching Michigan State for 814 games, second in program history. He's one of the most colorful college coach in his era, with a trademark whistle he used to signal line change. Amo helped establish the Greater Lansing Area Hockey Association, first organized youth hockey program in mid-Michigan. He donated used Michigan State equipment and encouraged former players to coach. The league began in 1953 with 3 players, and by his retirement in 1979, it had over 450 players. Today, the league has 23 teams for boys and girls, from mites to midgets. For these efforts, he achieves the first John McInnes Award in 1983, given out to the American Hockey Coaches Association, recognizing great concern for amateur hockey and youth programs. He is also namesake of 3 awards given to the top high school player in Western Massachusetts, given to the GLAHA Coach of the Year, an award at Michigan State presented by the Michigan State hockey player for outstanding athletic, scholarship, and community participation and achievements. Progressed from 7-13 in his first year at 1951-52 to 4 consecutive campaigns with 20 or more wins. He coached 12 All-Americans, 3 Olympians, Weldon Olson, our own Gene Grazia, and Doug Vollmer. He retired in 1978-79 with a record of 367, 427, and 20, with Big Ten titles 66, 67, 70, 71, 75, 76, and tying for the title in 72 and 73. Briefly played in the NHL with Providence and the Springfield Indians after graduating from the University of Illinois. However, his career was cut short by World War II. Following World War II, he got his coaching debut at Westfield High School in 1946, and then Michigan Tech 2 years later for 3 seasons, after starting at Michigan State the fall of 1951. Today, Western Mass high school players know the Bizzones thanks to the Coliseum Exposition Scholarship Fund and the Dante Club. The award is given again to the top high school player in the region, the Bizzone Award. And there is many individuals who have won the Bizzone Award. I can think of one offhand. His name is John Weiss, and he won the Bizzone Award in, I believe it was 1974. So that was a fitting achievement for a West Springfield zone to do that. And on behalf of Amy Bizzone, his son John, and his niece Tony are here to accept this award.
We love speeches.
Let me scooch through this one. I'll be real quick. Brian covered pretty much all of it, but what I wanted to mention is, so Dad was born in 1916 on Cape Cod in Sagamore, Mass. Shortly thereafter, they moved to West Springfield, so he was a little guy. Growing up, my grandfather, what he would do is he would come right over here to the old bed and build a bonfire for my Uncle Pete, Tony's dad, my dad Amo, and all their buddies. They would get up before school, the bonfire would be going, they'd come down to the old bed and skate, play a little hockey, then go over to elementary school, junior high school, and Westside High. And so that's where they started it all. After all that, Dad, had a wonderful, wonderful high school career. Went on to, as Brian mentioned, University of Illinois, where he won a national championship there. They had a juggernaut of a team at Illinois, and then World War II came. PT boat captain, in the surf at D-Day, in the Pacific Theater on all kinds of covert missions with a group of people called a group of leathernecks called the Alamo Scouts. When the war was over, came back, coached at Westside High, as Brian mentioned, and then got a call from his old college coach and said, Amo, there's a job opening in Michigan Tech. Dad was dating, he met, after the war, the love of his life, Mary Kennedy, at Snappy's hot dog stand, I think here in West Springfield. And he called her and said, look, we got to get married because we're going to Michigan because I got a job. She said, where the hell's Michigan? She'd never been out of Holyoke. They got married, they went up there, they coached a bunch of guys on the GI Bill. He was there for 3 years, had great success. Then he got the job at Michigan State. He was at Michigan State for 28 years, as Brian mentioned. And you know what? But he never, ever, ever forgot his roots. Because as a kid growing up, we always packed up the station wagon because, Johnny, we're going home. And we come out here for 2 months every summer. And as he progressed into his career at Michigan State, he always recruited kids from here. He had Eugene, who played for him after that 52 team here, played for Michigan State, then went on and won a gold medal. He had guys like Harold Passerini, Eno Campanini, Aldo Altabelli. They all came out and played for him at Michigan State. A little bit later in time, Tommy Smith and Kenny Mattoon came out and played for Dad from West Springfield. So he never forgot about where he was from, and he loved this town. He loved Westside. So I'm honored to accept the award with Tony for my dad. I know he'd be honored if he could be here. We lost him quite a while ago, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh. See it up. I'm laughing because, I mean, So far, everybody we've talked about is hockey players. I mean, there's plenty of athletes, but the next one, we're just going to keep with this hockey theme for a couple of more great athletes. The next person is GRAZIA. GRAZIA was the original rink rat and a member of the deadline game, along with his fellow studs, Angelo Bertelli and Pete and Emil Mazzone, who all grew up being accomplished athletes at the highest levels. He completed odd jobs for the local Coliseum owner, Ed Shore, between periods at the Springfield Indians games. Gene and his neighborhood buddies would scrape the ice between periods with shovels and put down fresh sheets for the next period. As rink rats, they would do things in exchange for the opportunity to skate at the Coliseum later that day. As a bonus, they would often get along one-on-one instruction from the best of the best, Eddie Shore himself. As kids, the lessons all paid off as the kids became the first Western Mass team to win the state hockey championship in 1952 in the old Boston Arena in March to the glory and beat Lexington 5-1, Newton 4-0, Walpole 5-3, and narrowly defeating, as I said earlier, Stoneham 4-3 in a tense final game. The team had a nucleus of 6 accomplished players known as the Iron Dukes: GRAZIA, Ebby Donaldson, Richie Frasco, Rudy Basilone, Fred Orslick, and Leo Friorini. A nickname given to them by the neighborhood Springfield Daily News, Sam Pompey, came from the fact that they rarely came off the ice. GRAZIA chose to play college hockey at Michigan State after spending a season playing in Milano in Italy. A left winger, he played in the B World Championships for Italy in 1953. He also played for the U.S. national team in 1959 World Championships, and in addition to his Olympic appearance. GRAZIA played in the Olympics in 1960, coached by West Point's Jack Riley. The last player to be cut from that team was Herb Brooks, a miracle on ice. He was a 1960 a gold medalist and a member of the 1960 team inducted into the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. After the Olympics, he played minor league professional hockey in Toledo for 10 years. He then became a hockey, baseball, golf coach in West Springfield, where he taught physical education for 26 years. Graz is honored as the award for the top forward in Western Massachusetts, called the Gene GRAZIA Award. And I have to mention that each and every year, Bobby Ledoux of Collins Tavern sponsors the Gene GRAZIA Award. He is not here this evening, but he did donate to the cause, as you know, and he is so prideful of Gene GRAZIA and that award. So when you see Bobby again, thank him for all his service and what he does for this community. The Gene GRAZIA Award is presented every year based on the fact that Bobby Ledoux is keeping his legacy alive. So thank you, Mr. Ledoux. So I did talk to Gene's son more recently, and he is a stagehand actually for the other Hall of Fame event that is going on tonight, and couldn't make it. Did call, sending his regards and thank you. His son Rob is also alive and well, and he was unable to make it this evening. So here to accept the award on his behalf is again the athletic director, Glenn Dulett. So here we go. Yeah, we're going to stay on the hockey theme, and we should. Joseph Skip Demersky. Skip Demersky grew up as a rink rat in the Eastern States Coliseum and represented this group for induction in the Springfield Pro Hockey Hall of Fame. He won the Berry Division scoring title in 1960 as a junior at West Springfield High. In 1961, Demersky led the state in hockey scoring, 54 goals and 75 points in 20 games at the time when high school only had 10-minute periods. Demersky was all Western Mass along with his teammates Al Runshaw, a goalie, Joe Brigoli, a winger, and Ronnie Butterfield on defense. Although the 61 Terriers lost the state finals, Demersky made the All-State team. Demersky was offered admission into Clarkson University by head coach Glenn Zaklarski. The athletics department got more than they expected from him. Along with his hockey, he excelled in soccer and lacrosse. As a senior in 1966 and 1967, he captained the soccer and lacrosse teams and had served as an alternate captain of hockey. In 1966, his junior year, Clarkson lost to Coach Emil Bazzone's Michigan State's team in the NCAA Division I championship game.
6-2.
You gonna take that? Demersky commented after, how's this for a twist? As a kid, I grew up in the Emil's old house across Memorial Ave from the Coliseum. That was his quote. So, you can see how he took the defeat and was a gentleman to the end. Demersky was recognized for his accolades and inducted into the Clarkson University Hall of Fame in 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, as part of the inaugural class, Joseph Skip Demersky.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to the first inaugural Hall of Fame for West Springfield High School. I want to say I'm very proud to be with all these other athletes that have received the same honor, and I want to congratulate the committee for doing a super job, especially having no pilot to run by and coming up with this perfect event. This honor didn't come from nothing. It came from a lot of people giving me a lot of guidance and a lot of help. And I'd just like to take a couple of minutes to say thank you to them. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to my family, my mom, my sisters Barb and Don, and my dad. They were always behind me and ever promoted everything I ever did in sports. My dad was kind of unique. He had a philosophy that the guy that did it the most would usually end up being the best. So what he did was he made it fun to practice. He told me that I could play any sports that I wanted, but the rules were that once you started, you finished. In other words, you played the whole season, you went to every practice, and you did some practicing on your own, so you wouldn't just end up being an average player. He did some cool things. He made me what I call a shooting table. He took an old porcelain tabletop, built a stage next to it so that it was like you were standing on your skates next to it, put a little water on it in the summer, a little ice or snow on it in the wintertime, and made me promise that I'd take at least 50 shots a day, come hell or high water. Set up a bucket in front with a couple of pieces of plywood, and every day I'd come home, even with my buddies, and we'd take 50 shots. Made a couple little apparatuses with a piece of rope and a 1-pound weight, and said, every day just move your wrist, get that strength in there, you'll get a better shot. And the funniest thing I remember about my dad was, I asked him one day, I said, Dad, he said, how do I know if I have a hard shot? He says, when you go to take a shot and the goalie gets out of the cage, you know you got a hard shot. I'd like to thank my coaches. They taught me teamwork. They taught me how to win graciously and lose graciously. They taught me the strategy to the games. My first coach was Amy Levesque, West Side Taxis. What a time that was. I had Bill Vassar as a coach when I played for Potvin, and of course Ted Smith when I played in high school. Thank you, all of you. I'd like to thank my teammates, and I've had a lot of them. I've been playing hockey for 68 years. I'm sure that they've had good things to say about me and bad things, but I only have good things to say about them, and I learned something from all of them while I was playing. I'd like to thank my competitors. You know what they say, you're only as good as your competition. And we had a lot of competition when we were playing in the Barrie Division when I was in high school. They tried to come up with some unique strategies to beat us, but usually we prevailed. I have two special thanks to give. The first one is to Eddie Shore, Sr., Mr. Hockey. Eddie came up to me one day when I was a rink rat, and he said, hey, Skip, he said, do you want to be a hockey player or a good hockey player? And, of course, you know what my answer was. So he said, I want you to practice these skills. He says, don't go out on the ice and just shoot the puck at the boards and make a lot of noise. He says, I want you to go out there and I want you to practice these skills. Keep your legs underneath you at all times. He'd come out on the ice and he'd teach me. And his teachings prevailed, and it enabled me to be a good skater and a better hockey player. So I want to say thank you to him for two things. One, for taking the time to try and teach me, and secondly, for giving me the opportunity to skate as a rink rat on that ice and learn all those drills that he was teaching me. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to my best friend and greatest line mate, Joe Bergoli. Joe and I started our friendship when we were about 6 or 8 years old, and we did all kinds of crazy things. We had the exposition as our background, or playground. We became stick boys for the Indians, and for probably 8 to 10 years, we played hockey one way or another every single day. We either played in the street or we were skating at the Coliseum. When we were in high school, we gelled, and we were a pretty good combo. And one of the reasons that I was able to score all those goals is because I got those passes from Mr. Bergoli right on my stick. And one other thing that you might not know about Mr. Bergoli is that he went to AIC and played for the AIC hockey team, and he played on a line that was the highest scoring collegiate line in the United States. I just want to say thanks, Joe Bergoli, for being my buddy and my line mate. And I want to thank everybody else for coming here tonight and honoring us all. Thank you very much.
So, Mayor, 50 shots. I think that's how this Hall of Fame got started. Next up, Mr. Bruce Hildreth. Football, basketball, baseball. Bruce was a 1961 graduate of West Springfield High School who played football, basketball, and baseball and achieved Western Mass honors in all 3 sports. He's selected as the class athlete in 1961. After attending West Springfield High School, Bruce went on to Deerfield Academy, where he continued playing those 3 sports. His accomplishments? Bruce was nominated for the Lehovitz Award for Outstanding Basketball Players in Western Massachusetts. Bruce pitched batting practice for the Springfield Giants. He was accepted at Springfield College in 1961, but signed a baseball contract with the San Francisco Giants, where he played until 1964. Younger brother Lee Hildreth, Bruce Hildreth, younger brother of Lee Hildreth, Bruce Hildreth, was an ace pitcher who had 2 20 strikeout games in West Springfield's senior year in 1961. Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Hildreth. And Mr. Hildreth, I want to make it known that in the room was your good friend Deke Pillsbury. Yeah. And Deke Pillsbury, as I know, a personal friend of yours, and he had some tremendous things to say about you during the collaboration and discussion of this, and I know he's a personal friend, so I wanted to call Deke out and make sure he knew what a precious friend he is.
My thanks to the committee, my thanks for Mr. Pillsbury, Deke. I'm sure he'll be honored soon, as Coach Pillsbury is a legend in West Springfield. I know it was a daunting task for the committee to do all of this stuff, and I really appreciate it. I know there are many equally and more rewarding individuals. I know one of them is my wife's late husband, Bill Delaney. My brother Lee, who I think had a lot of pictures up there. I think there's some confusion about my brother and myself. But and certainly many females that in my day didn't get the chance to participate in interscholastic sports, both and coaches. And I'm sure there's going to be many females being considered in the future. I know one coach I see by Mr. Pillsbury. My background in West Springfield. I didn't know Betts, but certainly I know Tony. Skip and I were classmates. We were chemistry partners. I don't know if he remembers that, but we're fortunate to be here because we didn't blow ourselves up in chemistry with the Bunsen burners. George Thompson coached my stepsons, Mike, Billy, and Danny. I have Graz and Jonesy. Certainly, when I was a teacher and a coach, we hung around together, and Deke will tell you, we had many enjoyable times together. Some we can't even talk about. Tim was a student when I first started teaching in West Springfield. I was at Cowing School, and certainly Jonesy kept me up on all the accolades that he was getting as he continued his career. Porky Plum, I I can't tell you enough about Porky Plum. I'm going to say a few words about him, I guess, next. But he was my brother's dear friend. He was my friend. I used to visit him in New Jersey and when he was in Florida. And he was just, you know, it's kind of funny when you hear the name Porky Plum, you think of, he was the most fit person you could ever meet. He was playing softball into his 70s. The 1974 soccer team I followed, I was teaching at Cowing at the time, and I followed them. And certainly some of them went to Cowing when I was teaching there. And then 1952 hockey team, which I thought it was a hockey assembly here, right? Honoring the hockey team, which it should be, because I ran into people who said, well, all these guys in hockey, how come they're not being honored? I said, I don't know. You know, it's not my job. But Joe might remember, in 1952, I was 8 years old, and I followed the hockey team, and my future brother-in-law was dating my sister, Fred Orlosk, and I had a fortune of, when he was dating my sister, that I'd hang around and he'd try to get rid of me, give me a quarter. So I was smart. I learned to always hang around and get the quarter from him. But that 1952 hockey team, going back to hockey, was certainly a memorable experience for all of West Springfield. So if you get the idea that I spent over 60 years living, teaching, coaching in West Springfield. So even though I live in Southwick now, I'm still a townie. And we still get the West Springfield Record to keep on top of what's going on. We love West Springfield. I have many friends here. I have many friends who came and I didn't even promise them that I'd buy them a drink. So that's really nice that they showed up. And last of all, God gave me the best family in the world. I have 24 when we're all collected. Most of them are here. Some had one's away at college, one had a football game. My son's on the West Coast, but I have 16 of them here tonight to share with me. And I share this with my family, and I thank the committee from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Just keep going. So next up, the 1974 boys soccer team, New England champions. Yep, New England champions.
There you go. Thank you.
1974 boys soccer, 21-0-1. League title, Western Mass champs, state champs, New England champs. Unprecedented by any team in the history of the school, the West Springfield varsity soccer team captured the New England soccer title after winning the Western Mass Trophy by triumphing over Cathedral at Springfield College. The team traveled to Boston to take on New Bedford, with 8 busloads of fans who had high expectations of them. With this victory, the state championship was theirs. Buses were boarded once again, this time for Rhode Island. A 2-day tournament, West Springfield defeated Maine, New Hampshire, and emerged as New England champions. Representing the 1974 New England champions is Ken Sadie's little sister, Kim. And she's going to come up. And if Kim, if you'll just wait 1 second, because I think we should do the same thing as we did for Mr. Jones and Mr. Daggett and induct Mr. Thompson into the Hall of Fame with the 74 team. And I thank Mr. Roberts for that idea. Very good idea, and I appreciate it. George Thompson's coached soccer for 28 years at West Springfield High School with an impressive 321, 86, and 76 record. His team won an incredible league, 10 titles, 5 Western Mass Crowns, 2 state titles, and 2 New England championships, back-to-back in 1974, 75, 75, 76. And again, there will be representation by the 1974 team. And Miss Sadie, if you'll come up first, that would be great. And Dan Roberts, please escort.
I gotta put on glasses. All right.
Bring that down to your height. We're going to bring this down to Kim's height.
Thanks. First off, my brother wants to acknowledge the original coach, Ted Smith. He was the first. Wait. Come on.
Right here.
All right, got it. I know.
If it wasn't for Ted.
If it wasn't for Ted Smith, without him, we would not be here today. Sorry. So this is it. On behalf of my mom, dad, 3 sisters, and my 3 older brothers, I want to thank the induction committee for this honor to be mentioned with some great athletes from our hometown. It is very humbling. This is from my brother now, remember. On a more personal note, I would like to acknowledge my 1974 New England Championship team. Michael Cloutier, Don Conklin, Anthony Capola, Greg Doe, Dave Douglas, Bill Douglas, Rich
Bugsy Farini.
Okay. Mark Winden, Fred Gusick, Dave Hansman, Jeff LaBranche, Dennis LaFave, Keith McDonald, John McKay, Captain Mike Mason, Captain Doug Mattoon, Chucky Meter, Donald Null, Dan Roberts, Jeff Sawyer, John Scheel, John Tatro, and Leonard Robinson. Without you, we would not have had water. I want to say thanks. Without guys like this, I would not be here tonight. I also thank Coach George Thompson. With his leadership, he has taught us to play as a unit, how to care for one another, and most of all, how to win. I remember his first year coaching us. One of our players made a bet with Coach Thompson. The bet was Coach Thompson would show up wearing a kilt at the season's end banquet. Since Coach Thompson was from Scotland, he wore the kilt, won the bet, and also our respect. And my teammates know what the bet was. Or just ask George. Another great memory was a pizza party we had at the Cake Box Bakery, where Coach was a baker. It started as a pizza party, but quickly turned into a pizza dough throwing party, which I, of course, started. I remember hitting Teddy Lund in the head with a huge piece of pizza dough. The place went nuts. Times like those I will treasure. Thank you, Coach Thompson, and all my teammates. I love you guys. Congratulations to all the other inductees. God bless everyone. Respectfully, Ken Sadie, class of 1975.
Okay. Hey, to speak for our coach, George Thompson, that was inducted, I got to bring this up to Dano height now. Thank you, Kim. Thanks, Sade. But I'm going to bring up our goaltender. We have two goaltenders here from the New England champ, Tony Coppola, but Mark Gwendon, Dougie Mattoon, our other captain, didn't want to talk. All the superstars didn't want to talk, but I'm going to bring up Mark Gwendon, who's going to talk about our coach Thompson.
Well, it's unfortunate George couldn't be here. Those of us who know him, we called him George. That was Coach Thompson, though. You know, he was a special kind of guy because we were a very unique team, if you knew who we were. A very unique team. It wasn't a typical team. We were very unique. A couple of stories, rather than go into a dissertation, because George was a big part of it. We had a huge rivalry with the football team. The football team had some great talent, but they couldn't win a game. So sorry, there's no football players in this. So every summer when we had practice, they would do 2 or 3 time practices every day for practice. We would do one, we'd go into the shade, we'd drink water, and we'd be done. We were 20-0-1 that year. Did anybody know who we got beat by or tied?
Northampton.
Northampton, right. If you look at Northampton's yearbook, Blanners, they tied West Springfield. It was a big deal for Northampton. It was huge. If anybody goes back to see their yearbook, that's exactly what it was. 20-1, it was a great season. When we played for the Western Mass Championship, we played Cathedral. And George sat back, and we were down 1-0. And it was a tough game. Oh boy. We were down 1-0. We came back to tie it, and then we won it. And George at halftime said, "Don't give up." This was coached by Lee Kenworthy. And if you know who Lee Kenworthy is, he was a SOB, you know. He was a tough guy, but what George did is he put West Springfield soccer on the map. He really, really did. You know, he had to compete with guys, Lee Kenworthy for Cathedral, Rick Matuzek from Chicopee, Bill Davis from Chicopee Comp, and Tony Pio from Ludlow. Those were the powerhouses back then. But he put West Springfield on the map. One of the things that George wanted to accomplish, and we did, unfortunately it didn't happen in 1974, it happened in 75. It was a sportsmanship award. We were looked at as a bunch of thugs on the field. They looked at us as, and where's Dougie Mattoon? There he is. And again, an undeserving reputation. Undeserving reputation. And George said to Doug, he said, "You know what? In your honor, we're going to win the sportsmanship in 1975. We did. And there was a lot of publication about how aggressive we were on the team. But you know what it was? It was really jealousy. It really was jealousy. George put West Springfield soccer on the map, and we were very fortunate. And I was very honored to be able to play for George. Thank you.
George Steele was born and raised in West Springfield and graduated from West Springfield High School as president of his class in 1928. He graduated from Harvard and opened a medical practice near Mittenegg School. In the 1950s, he was the team doctor for the football team, enjoying a close relationship with Coach Ed Mason and working on formations and plays. Mr. Steele aided the legendary coach Bill Jones in the 50s and 60s. Because of his dedication, we all know the Steele Relays today as the George Steele Relays. Here tonight, representing George Steele, is his son, Nick Steele. Time coming, my friend. Thank you.
I guess I might come back down here. I want to thank the committee. What a great job. What a great job they did. And wow. And congratulations to all the recipients tonight. And it's tough to follow that 74 soccer team, I'll tell you. My sister wished she could be here due to circumstances. She couldn't come down from Toronto, Canada. But she helped my father in the 50s. She kept scrapbooks of the football team. And in the 60s, she worked on a track newsletter with my father. And I want to mention, I was on the track team with Bill Jones as a coach, and he was a great, great guy. Yeah.
Hurdles?
It wasn't the high jump, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Hurdles or the high jump?
I did a little pole vaulting. But Brian covered most of my speech, and I want to thank him. I just wanted to mention, as Bruce did, about the female athletes. Without teaching or preaching, I learned by example from my father that you respect women athletes. He talked about Babe Dietrichson-Zaharias. And we have her book, and I kept it, This Life I've Led. She was a great Olympian and later a great pro golfer. She died of cancer at 42 years old. But, and I think most of you know there was a movie about her life. I believe it was Susan Clark, and Alex Karras played her husband. And I think they were married eventually. But anyway, I just want to thank everyone. This has been a great, great night for West Side. This overshadows that thing across the river by far. Whatever it is, I don't know. But anyway, thank you very much.
Here.
Thank you very much.
So, lastly, the last inductee of the evening is the oldest. And again, without Coach Pillsbury being in the room and being part of this committee, guys like myself or others in that room could have forgot guys like Porky Plum. And Nick Steele had mentioned Porky Plum several times as well, and during the nomination process when he was nominated. And in fact, Nick Steele actually nominated Porky Plum for this award. And I'm glad that we're able to give this award because Porky Plum was an athlete in football, basketball, baseball, and track. Leslie Porky Plum quarterbacked the 1952 Western Mass Champion Terriers, who went on to play Georgia State in the champions in the Peanut Bowl in Georgia.
He led a devastating West Springfield offense that had outscored opponents 204-60 by the end of the regular season. He went on to quarterback Ozzie Solom's squad at Springfield College in 1956. That team went 8-0-1. They were the first team to operate out of the split T, a formation perfect for a dual threat, quarterback Plum. After Springfield College, Plum went on to coach at the college and high school levels, including a 32-year stint at Westwood, New Jersey. He's currently living in retirement in Fort Pierce, Florida, and here to accept the award on Leslie Porky Plum's behalf is our own Coach Deke Pillsbury.
Here tonight and recognize Deke Pillsbury's retirement after 43 years of coaching varsity softball for West Springfield High School. Deke grew up in West Springfield, graduated from West Springfield High School in 1964. After college, he taught at West Springfield High School in the math department from 1969 to 2004. Back in the 1970s, while he worked as a summer leader at Cook's Playground, a bunch of girls used to come down and play softball. They were great players with a wonderful coach during the summer. It was during the school year without their coach that they seemed to struggle. Deke decided to coach them for 2 years. And well, the rest is history, because he went on to, he stayed on for 41 more years. And we are all so very lucky that he did.
I am one of Deke's senior 70s, for those people that know that. It is a privilege to stand up here and talk about Deke. One of our former players, Kelsey Mantoni, was in middle school. Her teammates at the time would always say to her, "Hey, Deke's in the outfield." And she would say, "What's a Deke?" A couple of years later, Kelsey had the opportunity to play for 4 years of softball with Deke. And tonight, I am lucky to share with you not what is a Deke, but who is Deke. Deke has coached well over 700 players throughout the years. Add that to his service of coaching basketball and football and teaching in the classroom, he has impacted thousands. The memories that we all have of Deke are classics and rarely have to do with winning and losing, but much to do with how much he gave of himself and cared for his players. With classic lines like, "If you can touch it, you can catch it," or "Throw the ball like an American." Or he said many times, "I don't see blood or bones, so get up." There was never a dull moment. To play for Deke was an absolute privilege, and to be able to coach with him for over the years has been truly an honor. Deke, you may be DUN with coaching, but you are always a Terrier.
So that concludes the event. Please stay and enjoy. And I just, again, you know, when you think about this, and you talk about it 2 years ago and the emotions that go into it, you know, as I said, Springfield guy, growing up, Cathedral guy, Springfield guy, but I sincerely want to tell you that I always aspired to live in West Springfield. I seriously did. I always aspired it because of the athletes. And I watched it because of my father and the Knights of Columbus and Larry Griffin. He was a grand knight, and I miss him dearly. But I'll tell you, it was the men and women within those organizations, such as the Elks and the KSC and all those organizations, that made me aspire to be here. So I want to just thank the town personally for embracing me the way that they have. And this is literally and figuratively the honor of my life to be here tonight.